Christians, we want the flourishing of society. We want to see Christ glorified. We know that we can't, that Constantinian temptation is there to force that, but we can't. We're in a pluralistic society in order for other people to bridge that gap. So how do we speak then to our people as their role, both individuals and as a collective
Right.
body, to embody and be that signpost of the kingdom in the middle of a world that's never going to agree with them entirely and hold them in account?
Yeah, I just finished doing a lecture course on the letter to the Ephesians, and the Ephesian letter is very much addressed to this, where right from the beginning, the trouble is that in the Western medieval and then Reformation traditions, people have read Ephesians as being about how you get to heaven, and really it isn't. It's about what God wants the church to be here.
Yeah.
And obviously, ultimate salvation is the horizon, but it's very much that through the church, the manifold wisdom of God might be made known to the principalities and powers in the heavenly places. That's Ephesians 3:10. And what is this church of which chapter 3, verse 10 speaks? And the answer is it's the polychrome, polyglot, polyform church, the church composed of Jews and Gentiles, of men and women, of slaves and free, a church which does what Caesar would have loved to have done, namely unite humans across traditional ethnic and sociological boundaries. But Caesar's empire was never able to do that. And the church, at its best, and Paul is struggling to say, this is your best, please go for it, will hold up the mirror to power. When Caesar sees the church being the church, then, oh my goodness, there's nothing else quite like this. I remember once going on a diocesan pilgrimage when I was Bishop of Durham. We went to Holy Island off the Northumberland coast, and we walked across the sands like the old pilgrims had done 1,500 or more years. I forget how many hundreds of years, but in the days of people like Cuthbert and Aidan. And as we did that, there were some television cameras rolling, and a colleague pointed out that look at the people who are here. We've got old ladies, we've got families with young kids, we've got middle-class people, we've got sort of business types, we've got all sorts of people. Where else would you find a cross-section of society like this, all gladly engaged in the same thing, and then all coming together to worship the God in whose name they're called? And that was an indication to me. I have no idea how many people saw the news clip or whether that message got through to them, but that's the point, that the church, by being the church, sends out signals to the rest of the world that actually this is the way to do the whole human project. And of course, that is why the church spread in the first centuries. I was talking with somebody just the other day, and the point came out very clearly. And it may be that Tom Holland says this in his book Dominion, I just can't remember, but that when the early Christians talked about a God of love, a God who loves you, this is totally new. The average pagan had no thought that Zeus might one day say, I love you, or Athene might, or Poseidon might. They didn't love human beings. They manipulated them. They used them in their power games, etc., etc. And if somebody said, well, we don't really believe you about this God you talk about, the answer is, look how we live together. We live as family. We are caring for one another. We are looking after one another. And we are doing that because in Jesus, the one we follow, the one by whom we are formed, we see this God of love, which is a God that you and your world had never dreamt of. And when people see that, that is enormously powerful.
That's the John 17 argument. I pray they may be one
Well,
as we are one, so the
of
world may
course,
know
that the
you
world
sent
may
me.
believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But it's kind of, it's love with skin on. I was talking to one of our ordinands from Wycliffe Hall just yesterday, and she said she'd been working in a church in a very difficult, rough area of one of the British cities. And she had a teenage girl who came into the church and sat down and said, I am safe here. And I thought, wow. First, I thought, I hope she really is. But then I thought, that is a way of saying this church is a real church. This is a church where people who are bruised and broken and frightened and nervous about everything else that's going on in the world, they can come here and they know that they're going to be genuinely loved and looked after and held as family and not let loose to the winds.